1,382%. That's the number by which Twitter has grown this year. I have to update my stats. Well, I do before every, I do about 2 presentations, 3 a week. And I update before every presentation. I have to change the number. Twitter was at 4 million users in mid to end February. It's at 15 million right now. Okay? So what's the big deal about Twitter? Okay? Again, forget the application for a second, the actual Twitter application. Focus on what it actually means and all it is. Focus on the social capital behind it. Why Google wants to pay $250 million for this, for an app that you could create in half an hour. That's not the point. The point is you have the intelligence of live discussion that you could tap into of 15 million people growing at an incredible rate, predicted to be 50 million by the end of the year. So yes, no, I don't care that so-and-so is going to get a coffee, etc., when entering, the typical content entry system of Twitter, which is what are you doing in 140 characters. No, you're going to argue, no, most people, I don't care what they're doing, etc. But that's not the point. You don't have to listen to them if you don't care. You can filter through the noise, right? So to answer this question, the big deal about Twitter isn't twitter.com itself. It's the thousands of potential uses created to use the social capital that's been formed as a result of Twitter, to tap into that collective intelligence, that diagram I just showed you, right? So I could use an application, one out there called search.twitter.com, where I could search for who's talking about United Way within a 50-kilometer radius of Ottawa right now. Right? And it'll provide me a list, and they started popping up live. Who happens to be mentioning United Way? You could set it so that you're tracking only questions. Or you could set it to track conversation of anybody saying, which charity should I donate to in your city within a 20-kilometer radius? And how about you meet them for lunch? Right? Build on that relationship. And any engagement, you may say, oh, well, only so and so many people use Twitter. Who cares? That's not relevant. Every one of these conversations is findable by Google. Every one. It's like creating a web page. Just entering your little 140 characters, press enter. That creates a web page that's ranked by Google. It'll skyrocket you to the rankings. And imagine you were doing that on a daily basis, so much as 5 responses to people that are actually inquiring about exactly your particular initiative, and obviously you could use your heads to think how you can apply that to your own use, right? It's incredible, incredible opportunity. Most people that use this, have no idea. If you ask the average teenager about Twitter, they think it's garbage. It's not something for teens. The average age on here is 40 to 45, right? There's much, much bigger implications of these channels. There are much bigger implications. Instant trending. Forget the 24-hour news cycle. There's something called the 60-second news cycle now. 60 seconds. That's how fast news disseminates on Twitter. Why? Because when that plane goes down in the Hudson River, the ferry captain happens to have a phone and takes a picture and posts it to Twitter. Right? And then the information spreads, and then people retweet, etc., talk about it, people blog about it, people post videos to YouTube, Flickr, etc. It spreads. When there's an earthquake, suddenly, this is an example of TwitScoop. Right? It creates a tag cloud of the most common words in that collective, in that diagram you saw, right? And those millions of people talking, what they're talking about. Whenever there's a major disaster, everything else goes small, one term comes to the top. I was giving a presentation at National Gallery a couple of weeks ago, and suddenly, what was it, Natasha? Was it Natasha Richardson, right? Natasha came and the term just, boom, exploded. I was like giving an example, so I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is. Maybe some celebrity, etc. Sure enough, it was a sudden skyrocketing discussion of exactly Natasha. Suddenly you could track, again, all this is trackable, hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of people started talking about her and sharing content, and the fact that she was just found, somebody pulled her away in an ambulance, and there was about 5 people that happened to be using these channels. One person posted a picture on Flickr, somebody else talked about it. And then, before you knew it, we checked on Reuters, on your mainstream traditional news, nothing, no information, CNN, no information. By the time CNN got it about 5 minutes later or so in Reuters, the Twitter discussion was already dissipating. They were on to something else. Right? Mumbai attacks, the Gaza bombings. You can go in, going back to this slide, and search who in Mumbai right now is talking about the attacks, right? Literally, and this is what I did when they were happening. Right? And then so I get all these Indian tweets. They're talking in Indian. 84 languages on here of participation. There's a button, translate into English. Crowdsourced translation, live. Right? People volunteering to translate. And all your tweets are translated, your discussion. So now I am enriched with the collective intelligence of people actually on the scene. Traditional media cannot compete. They got this challenge at the Olympics. Michael Phelps would make it to the finish line, and their editors, editing managers would tell him, look, you have 20 seconds to write the article. Why? Because hundreds of people in the crowd were already done. Blogging, writing, tweeting, spreading the information. It was old news. Right? Real-time engagement, I mean, just an example, very quickly, I set up, again, United Way, charity, volunteer, Q streams, just some application that came out called Monitor, came out a few days ago, or a few weeks ago. Just one out of, again, hundreds of thousands that use the knowledge of Twitter and filter it. Right? And live streaming of who's talking about what. Instantaneous niche communities. Right? You can follow people. You want to follow cinematographers that happen to like 50s and 60s films, there's a tag for that, and you'll suddenly have 10,000 people. There's a tag right now for charity. It had something like 80,000 people up top. I can't see the number. So it's all, you have access to a niche community of 80,000 people at your fingertips that are going to be reading your stuff, that happen to list themselves and categorize themselves as people involved in charity. Amount of times Canadians spend online each week is 17 hours, okay? Not including email. 70% of Canadians actively use social networking sites. Right? All over the world. Forget Facebook for a second here. That's a comprehensive one, sure. But, hey, Brazil, Orkut, China, Xiaoning, there are specific ones for different regions based on all the different cultural traits. In some cultures, it's not acceptable to put your picture. In some cultures, there's a much bigger power distance where it's not acceptable to talk on a horizontal level with people that are more senior to you. So they use cartoon animations, different ways of building in the cultural differences. Very important to remember. Neat little discussion. This is a tool within Facebook that I always show people that tracks the conversations occurring in Facebook at any given time. So I track two terms here. You can't see them, but one is dumped and one is kissed. Okay? So dumped is your yellow line. Or sorry, your blue line. And kissing is your yellow line. So you'll notice that, and this is the calendar year at the bottom. So December, there's a whole lot of kissing, you know, New Year's. Some dumping, you know, renewal. New Year coming up, all that. Then you'll notice that kissing starts skyrocketing early May. Early May, that's your new relationship, springtime, etc. People are talking about it, right? So how do I know a few people in the radio business that are just drooling over this stuff. You could zoom in and pinpoint the exact time that those relationships start worldwide and time the launch of that perfect single, the pop culture single, 2 minutes and 15-second love song, to precisely the minute your specific target audience associates it in their brain with, and so that next year they reminisce, right? Profound little implications from tools like this. So I tracked, again, charity and volunteer, and noticed that, interesting finding, in August volunteering goes up, but charity discussion goes down. Right? So there's an inverse relationship. Why is that? Right? You notice the specific peaks and the specific troughs. You can analyze this, zoom in, have fun. Right? Because you're just tapping, it's the big brother role. It can be pretty scary, big ethical implications obviously, but why not harness it? 95% of mobile phones sold in Canada next year will have internet access. Right? Africa alone, 60% already. South Africa, the country, 96% mobile penetration rate. Very profound.